wonderful. This is very enlightening. That the achiever can be married to, a team player, right? And this
generally the combinations are so the way energetically, when we're talking about energy, the achievers will naturally match with the emotional intelligence.
Right.
The charismatic leaders will naturally match with the team players. Mm-hmm. The reason being that the emotional intelligence people need structure, and so the achievers give them structure, and the achievers need a heart. So they're like the Tin Man, right? They're going through life, and their complaint when they come in for therapy is always, it seems like my life is passing me by. I'm incredibly successful. I'm doing everything I should be doing. I've checked every box, but it feels like my life is passing me by, and I'm missing it. Because the heart is what slows down time. Without the heart, time doesn't slow down. Now, of course, the emotional intelligence specialists, which are the emotional ones, time is they spend an enormous amount of time, working in the garden or feeling or sitting and meditating or reading books and things like that. And their complaint is often that they'd like to get out and make a little more money or do something or find something that they can contribute, and they don't, so they're actually a natural pair that balances each other, assuming they can appreciate the other quality. Now, the other element of that is that what makes the achiever, what we call the achiever, is the knowledgeable achiever, and when they're in their defense, when they're in their rigid defense, we call them rule keepers, and that's when they're the hardest. That's when they're the most thick-skinned metal kind of robot. And it isn't until they touch their heart and the compassion and the connection through relationship and realize that the relationship, it isn't the performance in the relationship, it's the depth of the relationship, it's the breadth, that they shift from being this sort of rigid rule-keeping person to being more of a knowledgeable sage that can support people in a great way. And likewise, the emotional intelligence person, that person who's super soft and deep, when they realize that their wisdom, that the wisdom that they have, the knowledge, the wisdom that they have, because if they're wired to have knowledge of emotions, that's much harder than just thinking. Thinking is easy. You can analyze a book, 17 Ways to Sunday. That's easy thinking. When you're a person who can describe and be knowledgeable of the emotional world, you are a person who can really guide others in a very powerful way. And so they actually are the sort of other side of the fabric of each other. That's why they that's why they find each other, and they tend to have opposite emotional, one's very upper chakra and the other one's very lower chakras. And then the same thing applies with the leaders. The leader will always marry will tend to find the team player in their especially in their first sort of relationships, and they will try to or they'll come into that relationship because the leader, of course, it's all about the leader. It's always all about the leader. Even if the leader is the woman in the relationship and she was taught to never have it about you, ultimately the relationship always defaults to the fact that person makes all the decisions or demands that things go their way, and so there's always one, that person's the strong one in the relationship. And a strong person in a relationship that's very opinionated and really wants to have things go their way needs a person who's there to cheerlead them on and say, that's a great way, we're going to do it that way, come on, we're going to do that. And so the team player, so we have the leader, what we call the charismatic leader, or also known as a charmer. And they will often find someone, they need to find someone who will be and play the role of their cheerleader, because they tend to have amazingly, the leaders have the lowest self-esteem, but usually have the highest position. So they really need someone there to if you look at our politicians and our leaders, it's always the case. They're incredibly low self-esteem people, and so they overcompensate by becoming famous.
Yes.
But the truth is that they are here to inspire, like a Martin Luther King or somebody that, people like Maya Angelou, who are people who have that charisma, and and then have very supportive people around them that support them in being that and reminding them that they see that in them. And so having team players all around a leader is very, very important. Someone that sees that. And then vice versa, the team player needs to remember that being a team player, being a person that pulls a group together and supports everyone in the group and is the heartbeat of that group, where it's like we're going to make this happen, we're all going to do it together, let's go together. That's an incredible leadership in our world. We have a world where all of the other profiles basically isolate themselves. In some way, shape, or form. The thinker just goes off on their ideas. The emotional person feels like they're overwhelmed by the world and withdraws. The achiever, really doesn't care about what everybody else does as long as they're performing really, really well. And the leader, of course, is like, well, wait. It's not about you. It's about me. And because it has to be. A leader has to. I mean, there was only one Martin Luther King. There's only one person who can make it happen. Those people have to think that way. So we only have one set of people in the world who actually try to pull us all together and make us all work together. And when the team player realizes that is a power, that actually being compliant and helpful and surrendering and sacrificing is actually a real power, whereas our culture tells you that is a wimpy, terrible person, that you should be on your own, you should be independent, and don't be don't just be doing that. That becomes when they realize that they are actually a leader by doing that in the world, and an essential one. That's when they step into their power. So each of these qualities in their core will lead to the match made in heaven. But and I didn't talk about the creative people. The creative people really need, when they're in relationship, they need someone to meet them in their creativity. So they tend to find someone else who meets them at their high level of mental creativity, and then which is really sort of off the planet a little bit, right? So then when they're in the relationship, then they come into their secondary qualities in their heart. So they may have a secondary quality when they come in of being very, very soft, and then they'll find the achiever. Or if they come in, they're a leader. They want to be a leader, and that person will find the team player. But they'll actually date through their secondary quality, not through their primary, because their primary is really much more playful and kind of irreverent, and it isn't about the relationship. It's about the wisdom, the ideas.
I see, because I was wondering with the pairing, and you have 5 styles, so how that works. So the creative idealists look to their secondary, and they can be soft team players.
They can be anything.
Yes,
they can be anything. I mean, look at Steve Jobs.
Yes,
he was a creative idealist, totally creative idealist, but huge charismatic leader underneath it, right? Right. Powerful. So they can come in and be anything. They can, once in their secondary, and so they learn, they learn that way. But yes, but they will need in their partnerships, their partner needs to meet them at a spiritual level in some way. They need to meet them at a higher sort of a higher frequency level. They need someone that can understand them that way. If their partner is too dense, too rigid, too controlling, too needy, too emotional, and not able to meet them at that higher place, they feel that can't support them in being who they are.
So do you think that people intuitively are attracted? You had said energetically.
Yep.
They are energetically attracted to a person with a different life purpose. But then I think the bugaboo is, as we were saying, then after the honeymoon stage is over, why can't you be more like me?
Yes.
So this is really about, I think, self-acceptance and accepting of others as their own separate beings, that they have a right to choose their own life purpose.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is that your life purpose, strangely, you don't get to choose your life purpose. Your life purpose is a soul quality.
I see.
And this is where my book differs infinitely from all of the other books written on purpose, as well as all of the other. There's a profile assessment in my book, and it's based on energetics, not on behavior. Whereas all the others, the Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, DISC, fantastic. They are fantastic studies in human nature, and they teach you an enormous amount. The problem is that they're energetic based. So a person who has a huge, you've got a person who has a which I've had come into my program, say a 280-pound football player body, right? Which would and who has violent tendencies, or and they have this tendency in their life to get up in their head and spin around in their head, right? And so they overthink things, and so they have some ADD or whatever they have, and when they test on any sort of a test, even the test that I give, they will often say, "Oh, well, I'm totally a creative person, right? I'm always in my head. But basically, they're rarely ever actually not, when they're in a room with other people. They're rarely not present and threatening almost, right? Because they're big, strong people. So it's really important to understand that the body is the first chakra, right? So it can't be any different than the energetic. The whole energetics of the energy field has a core purpose. The body is the total representation of your life purpose.
Oh,
and so the
yes.
type of body you have is directly related to the profile you have, to what you're doing. So in those other things, if you've behaved that way, and often we choose our behavior because of our wounding in our life, not because of who we are.
Wow.
And we choose to behave and say, well, this is how I am, and this is what I do, and this is what I've always done, and this is what our family does, so I must be that. Well,
right.
Of course, you take the test, you take that behavioral test, and what happens? You come out just the way you thought you would. And then you read more about yourself, and then you learn how to do it better.
Do it better. Is that so, Rhys, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Would you believe our show is over already?
Oh, really?
This half hour has absolutely flown by, Rhys, and everybody, you're going to be even more excited now because Rhys is coming back next week to do a second part 2 of Discover Your Purpose. And Rhys, I imagine you can get your book, Rhys Thomas, Thomas, Rhys, Rhys, Discover Your Purpose, online and at local bookstores and that sort of thing.
DiscoverYourPurposeBook.com, and you get a whole bunch of bonuses.
Oh,
or
wonderful.
You can go to Amazon and buy it on there, or Barnes & Nobles, they have it. But if you go to DiscoverYourPurposeBook.com. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rhys. This is WHPC 90.3. I am Dr. Duffy Spencer. We are Just Relationships, and I will speak with you next week, and looking forward to great relationships.